and the number of sites is quite numerous.
The U.S. is adamant there will be no go-it-alone military action for American troops, but many allies are still reluctant to get involved, and it's raising questions about where all of this is headed. Barbara Starr, CNN, The Pentagon.
On Sunday, 26,000 runners are set to take part in another marathon. This time, it is in the Spanish capital, Madrid, and as CNN's Al Goodman reports, security is being taken very seriously.
Is where it starts, the Madrid Marathon, which is actually 3 races, a marathon, a half marathon, and a 10-kilometer race. They're expecting 26,000 runners, and they're heading that way. The course winds through the city streets and comes to the Retiro Park. Security for the marathon here has been beefed up after the Boston Marathon bombings. One official says that means not just making the race secure, but giving the impression to runners that it's safe. This man is running on Sunday and says he's not worried.
I think the citizens, we don't have to be afraid about that. We have just to continue live our lives and just believe in the organization and just think that it was just one thing that will never happen again.
Spain's fight against terrorism changed after the Madrid train bombings in 2004 that killed 191 people. Experts say Spain improved its intelligence gathering, the coordination among its own police forces, and its cooperation with international police forces. They're confident this race will be safe. It ends right here. Al Goodman, CNN, Madrid.
3 days after the Boston Marathon bombings, the suspects were involved in a shootout with police in nearby Watertown. That is where the elder son-of brother was killed. But before that shootout, the brothers commandeered a car and its driver. CNN's Brian Todd has this incredible moment-by-moment recap of that carjacking and what we are learning from the driver.
Carjacking began more than a week ago Thursday night along the Brighton Avenue area outside downtown Boston, just along this strip. It began with suspect Tamerlan Tsarnaev knocking on the window of the victim's car and demanding a ride. It played out for about 90 minutes and left the victim shaking. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, according to the victim, wielded a silver handgun when he climbed into the black Mercedes SUV. The suspect's first words.
Said, did you hear about the bombing, the marathon bombing? And Danny said, I did. He said, well, that's me. I did that, and I just killed the Cambridge cop.
Professor James Fox, a criminologist at Northeastern University, has counseled the victim and knows every detail of the story. The victim, a Chinese national, did not want to go on camera, would only agree to be referred to by his American nickname, Danny. He gave a description of the carjacking to the Boston Globe, which Professor Fox confirmed to CNN. The victim says when he pulled off the curb with Tamerlan in the passenger seat, Jahar Tsarnaev was following in another vehicle. It was hard to drive at first.
Early on in the drive, Danny's obviously quite nervous and driving somewhat erratically because of his nerves. And Tamerlan says, oh, relax, calm, drive slowly.
They drove from Brighton to Watertown into Cambridge, about 90 minutes in all. We retraced the route. At one point, Professor Fox says, the two vehicles pulled over. The brothers got out, unloaded objects from Jahar's vehicle into the victim's trunk. What does he think it is?
He thinks it's luggage. Danny didn't want to look back.
They ditched Jahar's car. All three were now in Danny's vehicle.
At that point, he realized that, boy, he may not live to see another day.
Tamerlan was then driving, the victim in the passenger seat, Jahar in back. They stopped at an ATM in Watertown, withdrew money with Danny's card. Professor Fox says Danny heard them speaking in their native language, could only make out the word Manhattan in English. But that's not all. In the car, the three of them are talking like normal guys, right?
Exactly. Well, they have over 90 minutes to spend with each other, and they were talking about ordinary things. What kind of phone do you have? Do you have a CD player in the car? There was this kind of a relationship forming, which eventually aided Danny.
But at one point, Danny's phone buzzed with 2 texts, then rang twice.
Danny answers it. Tamerlan says, don't say a word in Chinese, because if you do, I'll kill you. So his friend's speaking Chinese over the phone, but Danny answers in English. I'm going to sleep elsewhere tonight. And when he finally hung up, Cameron said, "Good boy, you did it well."
Professor Fox says the victim's brief window for escape came here at this Shell station. It was cash only at the time. So he says Jahar Tsarnaev went in to pay cash for the gas. At that point, Tamerlan Tsarnaev was briefly fumbling around with his personal GPS system. He says Tamerlan then set the gun down temporarily inside the door pocket.
And in one motion, Danny undid his seatbelt, opened the door, and ran to the rear of the car, over across the street to the mobile station.
How did Tamerlan Tsarnaev react? What did he do?
Well, Tamerlan tried to grab him, missed, swore, but that was it.
Didn't fire.
Didn't fire. Well, it would have been difficult to fire because Danny, by this time, was to the rear of the car, and it would have been difficult for him to sort of fire through the back window.
At the mobile station, the victim got an employee to call 911. The Tsarnaev brothers took off. The encounter with police in Watertown came soon after, when Tamerlan was killed. Professor Fox says, given the information that the brothers planned an attack in New York,
were it not for his actions, his behavior, his composure, his wits about him, who knows what would have happened.
But Professor Fox says the victim doesn't consider himself a hero and is still nervous because he knows he may well have to recount the entire night in court if and when Jahar Tsarnaev goes to trial. Brian Todd, CNN, Boston.
We'll take a look at sports when we come back. Welcome back, and for the sports news, I now hand you over to my colleague Fatou Jassi. Fatou Jassi, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Fofana. The president of the Gambia Cricket Association has returned to Banjul after attending a meeting in South Africa. The Cricket Association president is now the regional director for North, West and Central Africa. After arriving in Banjul, Johnny Gomez watched as young cricketers from Methodist Preparatory Lower Basic School and St. Mary's Lower Basic School battled it out for the right to be called champions of the Standard Chartered sponsored tournament for lower basic schools. Abubakar Singh watched the finals and he has the details.
Gambia Cricket Association Primary School Cricket League, and they serve the watching public a true reflection of the talent embedded in the ranks of the future of the game in the country. Methodist Preparatory Low Basic School up against St. Mary's, a game that has become a regular tussle between the two Banjul schools. Methodist Preparatory lost last year's final and entered this round hoping to banish the demons of their previous attempt to win this prestigious final. They weren't to be denied by a strong St. Mary's side, as Methodist won the toss and elected to bat, scoring 53 runs and 5 wickets in 13 overs in the first innings. St. Mary's boys were shell-shocked and struggled to deal with the masterly performances of the likes of Sambu. The little master weaved his magic on the game, and there was no doubting the outcome of the contest. When St. Mary's batted in the second inning, they scored a total of 42 runs and were bowled expertly by the Methodist bowlers in all 11 overs. It was a game that confirmed the quality inherent in the local scene, which GCA president says bodes well for cricket and its re-emergence in Gambian popular culture.
This shows that the kids have got talents. And bravo to Methodist Preparatory School. I mean, they didn't bat well, but they bowled very well because I know them. They've been coming. I mean, the issue is consistency and training. You know, since we told them we're going to change the format, that they're going to use the hard ball now. There is no more going for the Baker system now, We're going straight for a stadium today. They were all fully cladded. They had their pads, they had their bats, they had their helmets. So from now we're going to start like that. And that, I was very happy. The same old St. Mary's, they were even